A Tale of a Muslim Girl and Her Infidel Lover. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to remind the reader that this novel is narrated in 3 books. Book 3. The Muslim Apostate Girl and Her Infidel Lover. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim girl in Sudan. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Any resemblance to real people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 41. A brief biography about the childhood of the Muslim apostate girl Infidel. The complaint of the Canadian Islamic groups to the United Nations organization inspired the controversial author Dr. Infidel to think of writing her 3rd book. Her new book is divided into 2 parts, under the title, Imagine a World Without Islam and Imagine a World in Which All Countries Have Become Muslims. To author her new controversial book, the genius Sudanese girl requested her board of directors to grant her some free time. In a special meeting, her leaders granted the CEO an indefinite holiday until she can complete drafting the manuscript of her new book. Then the handsome man Kamal is requested by the pretty girl Infidel to fill her place in Toronto, and leave the work in Montreal to be handled by one of his assistants. Dr. Kamal gladly accepted the request of the founder of the Muslims' liberation movement. During his stay in Toronto, while the Princess Infidel is busy writing her new book, the highly educated Sudanese man Kamal requested her to give him the honor of writing a brief biography about her childhood. The pretty author Infidel found her hidden dream of being close to her new Muslim apostate lover and revealing her deep love for him could be fulfilled through her lover's request to be close to her while he writes her brief biography. Therefore, during that wonderful time, she enjoyed her time by sitting face to face with him and spending hours together narrating her childhood memoirs. She is feeling as if she is the beautiful Mona Lisa sitting in front of the genius Italian painter and artist Leonardo da Vinci while he is painting her beautiful face and sexy body. For many days, Dr. Infidel sat in front of her first biographer and narrated word after word her tragic childhood life story in detail, while she was in Sudan and other parts of the world. Dr. Kamal felt he is writing the biography of a noble character. He felt he is drafting a story rather than a biography. He gave the biography the sensual title, The Muslim Apostate Girl and Her Infidel Christian Lover. Of all the biographies that were written about the noble character of Princess Infidel and the great contributions she gave to the world, Dr. Kamal's biography surpassed all of them. In her biography, he went back to her childhood and revealed some information that could not be found in any other narrations. Anyone reading it will feel the Princess Infidel herself telling her story. Later, people mistook this biography with the autobiography which was written by Infidel herself. This biography was written in 3 parts. Since the reader had already gone through 2 parts and now he is amid the 3rd part, we must avoid repetition and mention only the missing introductory part. This missing part can take us to the childhood of Princess Infidel Taha al-Amin. Thus begins the genius Muslim apostate girl narrating her childhood story. My father was 25 years old, and my mother was 40 years of her age when they got married. Many reasons were told by our grandparents and other relatives to explain such an unusual union in a society where the man prefers to marry a girl many years younger than him. Some said it was because my mother was from a wealthy family and my father was struggling to meet his daily needs. Others rejected this explanation and said it had something to do with love. I have no clue, why my father agreed to marry a woman 15 years older than him, who had already married 2 men before him, and had 3 daughters from them. I am the only child resulting from this third marriage of my mother, which lasted for 10 years. By the way, some rumors said my father was an illegitimate baby who was abandoned by his adulterous mother. No one knew his Muslim father, who committed adultery with his Arab mother and made her pregnant with a bastard child. My grandfather took him from the street and took care of him and brought him up and named him Taha, after the name of the Prophet of Islam, and gave him his family name Al-Amin. When my mother died, my father married 2 women. One was a widow, and his other bride was younger than me. His child bride was called Alia. She was 6 years old when she married my father. Her family refused to send her to our house until she became 9. Her mother was not happy when her father forced her to come and live in our house. She wanted her daughter to grow into a woman before she would go to her husband's house. Alia became a friend and sister to me. I was 10 and she was 9 when we met each other. At that age, I did not know what the husband and his wife do except live together in the same bedroom. Alia used to hate my father, and many times she told me, "Your father is not a good man." She tried to explain to me what my father did to her at night, but I did not understand her. I remembered she used to trouble my father and beg him to allow her to come and sleep near me. When I reached the age of puberty, I began to understand why Alia used to hate my father. I could not comprehend the fact that my father could force an underage girl to sleep with him before she was physically and mentally ready for sexual intercourse. However, my unwavering love for my father blinded my eyes those days and made me ignore such an important question. Alia used to complain always of blood issues in her private parts. I could not understand her problem at that time either. In our house, we had 3 bedrooms. My father's second wife occupied one, Alia another, and the third was for me. The problem began when my father married a third woman. I had been deprived of my bedroom, and the new wife occupied it. I was forced to sleep in the kitchen with our maidservant, who was called Maria. Maria was an Eritrean Christian refugee girl of my age. Being a Christian, she was treated as unclean and inferior by my father's 3 Muslim wives. My father treated Maria nicely and showed great favor toward her. Later, I discovered it wasn't fatherly love. Shortly, a disaster occurred one day when the new wife of my father claimed to have seen him having sex with our maidservant, Maria, in her room and on her bed. I was at school when this problem happened. The third wife beat Maria and chased her out of our house. My father at first denied this accusation, however, later, he admitted it and brought Maria back to the house. He said that Islam permitted him to sleep with his Christian maidservant because she was like a slave to him. When my father convinced his other Muslim wives, Maria became his concubine, and our kitchen was converted into a 4th bedroom. I was forced to sleep every day in a different room with the 3 wives of my father. None of the Muslim wives of my Arab father gave birth to a child except his Christian maidservant Maria, and of course my late mother Khadija. Alia said to my father that his child from Maria did not resemble him. A rumor spread that the Eritrean boy who brought her to work in our house had made her pregnant. My father investigated the rumor, and it turned out that the boy was not interested in having sex with women because he was gay and had a boyfriend, and the 2 were living together as husband and wife and practiced sodomy. Sadly, the newborn baby boy of Maria did not live more than a few days. He died in infancy. My father did not get a child again. When I was a small girl, my father brought a boy from the south of Sudan. The boy was 10 years older than me. My father converted him from Christianity to Islam. His name was Peter, but my father changed it to Zaid, after the name of the adopted son of the Prophet of Islam. He became a stepbrother to me, and adopted son to my father. My father treated him as his son, and gave him our family name. Therefore, everybody referred to him as Zayd ibn Taha al-Amin. When I was still a small girl, my brother Zayd married my cousin Zainab. In the beginning, she did not want to marry Zayd because he was a black African Zanji or Negro, and she was an exceptionally beautiful white Arab girl. Even so, my father forced Zainab to marry Zayd. My cousin lost her father when she was small, and my father became her guardian. For some selfish reasons, Zayd was forced by my father to divorce his wife, Zainab. Then my selfish father took her as a wife. I was at the university when this marriage took place. Until today, I do not know the selfish reasons that led Zayd to divorce his wife and my father to marry her. The other 3 rival wives said my father saw Zainab naked while she was taking bath and lusted after her, and got sexually aroused. Therefore, he forced his adopted son to divorce his wife, so he could marry her, and have halal sex with her. Yet, another woman that my father brought to the house was a captive girl from the Dinka tribe. Her Christian name was Sophia. Her story was incredibly sad. One day a fight between our Muslim people and the Christian Dinka tribe broke out in my city Al-Gadarif. That fight turned into a war between the Muslim Arabs and the Christian Africans of my town. My father was the leader of the Arab Muslims. My stepbrother Zayd was slain in that deadly battle. Many Christians were killed in that battle, and their houses were burned to ashes. Sophia's husband, father, brother, and other relatives were among the dead on that fateful day. The Muslim Arabs defeated the African Christians, who are called unclean infidels and enemies of Allah and His Prophet. My father ordered his men to kill every male Christian that fell in their captivity. Around 900 surrendered men and underage boys were slaughtered in cold blood. Then their captive women were distributed among the Arabs. Sophia was the wife of the chief of the defeated Africans. Her father too was a leader. My father took her to himself as a slave girl. Sophia told me that my father forced her to have sex with him on the same night he slaughtered her husband, father, and brother. He did not give her time to overcome her sorrow and agony and mourn the loss of her dead Christian relatives. Imagine how a captive young woman would feel towards the men who raped her on the same night he slaughtered her dear ones. Sophia's story is the one that troubled my conscience all my life. For that reason, she hated him more than anyone else. Among all the women that my father had married, she was the one who suffered so much under his tyranny and captivity. It was in Sophia's room that another infidel captive Dinka girl attempted to kill my father through a poison she served to him in his food. When she was questioned by my father, the Christian girl said, "I tried to kill you because you had murdered my husband, brothers, and other innocent relatives." Then after her confession, my father killed that Dinka girl by strangling her to death, and taking her body to the wilderness and burning it into ashes. My father always justified his marriages by quoting the example of the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet married a child bride Aisha, and my father too did the same with Aliyah. The Prophet slept with the captive Jewish girl, Safiya bint Huwaya, after killing her father, husband and brother, and slaughtering all her people. My father imitated him in that too, and so on and so on. In those days, I was so blinded by my love for the Prophet Muhammad that I could not see my father's actions as inhumane and morally wrong. All Muslims have this problem, that the Prophet Muhammad for them is beyond criticism, because he is infallible, and whatever he did he justified by a revelation from heaven, or holy hadith uttered by him to clothe his evil deeds and immoral behaviors with the attires of divinity. My memory could not take me beyond the age of 4. At that age, a midwife subjected me to the most brutal operation I ever experienced in my life. I remember that I was tied with ropes to my hands and legs. Then I was carried by my mother and taken to a dark room lighted with a dim local lamp. There was a woman who I knew as a midwife and circumciser, whose duty was to help women deliver their babies and circumcise little Muslim girls. I did not know what they were going to do to me except that I thought they wanted to squeeze a baby out of my stomach. When my mother removed the ropes from my legs and forced me to lie on my back, I began to scream. My fear intensified when I saw the midwife holding a razor in her right hand and a kitchen knife in her left hand. My mother closed my mouth to stop me from screaming. I was so terrified that I thought the circumciser woman was going to slice my throat with the razor and open my stomach with the knife. There were 2 other neighbors. Each one of them held one leg of mine and spread it as far as she could. I could not scream because my mother was putting her 2 hands on my mouth. Then I felt the hands of the midwife begin to fondle my tiny vagina. She used hot water and a wet cloth to clean my small private parts. I began to experience terrible pain when she began to cut off my clitoris and slice my 2 labias. First, she cut the clitoris and removed it completely. Second, she sliced the labia majora. Third, she sliced into half the labia minora. Finally, she stitched my vagina from the top until she reached near the rectum. She left an extremely tiny hole open. She used a thin reed to measure the small hole. That small hole later couldn't allow the groom to insert his finger in the pussy of his bride. Therefore, it would be impossible for the husband's large, erected phallus to penetrate such a tiny hole of the securely closed-up bride's pussy. For that reason, many Muslim brides were taken to the emergency units in hospitals on their first wedding nights. Sometimes, due to the fear of being accused as an impotent man or gay person who loved to practice sodomy with other men and therefore couldn't fuck his bride, a groom used a knife or a pair of scissors to widen the pussy of his bride. At any rate, on that fateful day, my pain increased to an unbearable state when the midwife began to seal the 2 sliced parts together and close my tiny pussy until I became unconscious. The cruel circumciser didn't use any kind of local freezing or general anesthesia while subjecting me to that brutal torture. Therefore, ever since that day, I always shudder and feel terrified whenever I remember the painful and barbaric procedure, which is called female circumcision in Islam. Non-Muslims referred to it as female genital mutilation. When I was 6 years old, I was sent to the girls' school. There is no coeducation in my city except for one Christian school. In that school, girls and boys sat side by side and learned. It was called the evangelical school. Its teachers were males and females. But that school was shut down by the Ministry of Education and converted into a Muslim girls' secondary school. I did not know the reason that led the Ministry of Education to shut down that school except because it was the school of the infidels. There was a rumor that said the Ministry of Religious Affairs was behind the closure of the evangelical school. In my new all-girls school, no man could enter except an extremely aged guard who guarded the school with a big, loaded rifle. The teachers, students, cleaners, food sellers, and visitors were all females. I enjoyed my schooling days. I did very well in my studies, and always scored high marks. My father was proud of my performance at school, and used to encourage me to do better. When I did the final examination in grade 12, I scored the highest marks in all of Sudan. We were 3 girls who got equal marks. My father faced a lot of opposition from my uncles and other relatives when he agreed to allow me to go to the capital city and join the only medical college in the country. Towards the end of my study at the University of Khartoum, I met a Christian man who was a senior medical doctor in the biggest hospital in the capital city of Sudan. I fell in love with him, and he was the one who altered my life forever. His name was Samir Peter Deng. He was a southerner from the tribe of Azanda. His Christian father was from the capital city of the south of Sudan, which is called Juba, and his mother was an Egyptian Coptic Christian from Alexandria City. Through him, I learned so much about Islam and Christianity. He was the one who opened my eyes and made me see how Islam is so cruel and deadly tool toward non-Muslims, who are called by the Quran unclean infidels. He also taught me about all the terrorist verses of the Quran, and the anti-feministic and misogynistic hadiths of the alleged prophet of God Muhammad. Therefore, through his unfailing love and teaching, I came to know the loving and peaceful teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ, who is called the Prince of Peace. Later, through a divine vision, I had converted to Christianity when I was a prisoner in the women's jail in Khartoum City. Chapter 42. Imagine a world without Islam. Last night, thus begins the Muslim apostate girl Ibtihal, her latest new masterpiece. I had an exceptionally beautiful dream. In my dream, I woke up and found myself living in a peaceful and wonderful world without Islam and Muslims. The people are astonished when I ask them where the Muslims went and what happened to their sacred book, which is called the Holy Quran. They told me they have never heard of people called Muslims, and they have never known a religious book called the Quran. Then I asked them about the Prophet Muhammad. They said to me there had never been a prophet by that name. All the people who claim to be the prophets of God came from the 12 tribes of the children of Israel, who are called today Jews. I told them I am sure there was a man who came from Mecca in Saudi Arabia and claimed to be the messenger of Allah. The people thought I am out of my mind when I began to tell them what that prophet taught. I did not believe them when they insisted that such a religion never existed in human history. I decided to find out by myself. I went to many public libraries and checked on the internet about the Prophet Muhammad and his religion. All my searches and efforts yielded nothing. I began to cry when I realized that I was sleeping and dreaming about all those bitter experiences that I went through in my dream world of Islam. I concluded that my mind had tricked me for so long and made me believe there were such things as the terror-inspiring book called the Quran, and the misogynistic hadiths of the alleged prophet of God, who was known as Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Kilab. When I overcame my sorrow and bewilderment, I decided to travel around the world and see how the world can be without Islam. While I am traveling around, I have never seen a woman covered with those demeaning hijab, abaya, or burqa that I used to see in my dream world. Everywhere the women dressed up the way they love to dress up. There is no dress code forced on them by the Sharia, as I used to do when I was in my Muslim native land. There are no fears filling the eyes of the travelers due to the possible suicidal terrorist attacks while they are traveling in airplanes. On one of my air trips, I conversed with a gentleman. I asked him whether he heard of a religion that commanded its followers to kill those who refused to accept it. The gentleman at first thought I am either joking or a lunatic woman. I assured him that I had a long dream, and I experienced such a religion in my dream world. The man wondered and said to me, how could any rational person follow such satanic teachings? Only the devil could teach its followers to do so. I said to him, in my dream world I used to follow such a religion for almost half of my life. Then I realized my mistake and converted to another faith. The man asked me what religion I am following now. I said to him I am following the religion of Christ. The man felt pleased and told me that he is following Christianity too. To be sure that I was not dreaming that the fantasy world of people who never heard of Islam and Muslims, I decided to travel to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where Islam originated. At the international airport, I have been told there is no country called Saudi Arabia. I looked at the world map, pointed my finger at a country, and told the airport authority where that Arab country used to be, where the city of Mecca was. It is the city where the founder of Islam was born and brought up. One young pretty lady at the airport told me that that place is called the Desert of Death, or the Empty Quarter. No one is living in that Sahara Desert anymore. There was a nation of people called Arabs. They became extinct in the 7th or 8th century. They were hostile to outsiders and used to fight each other until they destroyed their race by themselves. They established a kingdom based on some bizarre and violent religious beliefs, which justified the killing of outsiders and invading and looting each other. They terribly abused their women. Many of their children were raped to death because their religion justified and encouraged child marriage. They also practiced female genital mutilation, which destroyed the private parts of their women. They covered their women from head to feet with black burqas, which made them look like walking ghosts. Moreover, they allowed the man to beat his wife and rape her if she refuses his sexual advances. They forbade their girls to go to schools, public parks, gyms, beaches, work, or drive cars and bicycles. A woman could not step out of her house without a man accompanying her. They treated the woman like meat, and whenever she exposed her body, they would devour her like hungry wolves. Their kingdom flourished during the 7th and 8th centuries, but quickly vanished from human existence. No historian was able to visit them and survived. For that reason, the outside world does not know much about them and their religious beliefs. Those warring Arab tribes did not leave behind them any written history. They were primitive, savages, and barbarians. Still, I have not believed the words of the international airport employees, and said I want to travel to that desert of death. The airport authority informed me that there is Northwest City, or place in that deserted area of the world that an airplane can land on. Then I shifted my focus to other Muslim and Arab countries. I have been told totally different names and kinds of people living in those countries, and with different faiths. For example, in Egypt, I have been told the people over there are called pharaohs and still follow ancient and primitive religions that can be traced back to the Egyptian pagans at the time of Moses and the children of Israel. There are also Coptic Christians. The country is named Egypt after those Copts. Before that, it was known as Kemet. I have become so happy girl when I came to know of this new world I have found myself in. There is the religion of Moses, and there is the God-chosen nation which is called the Jews. I inquired about Iran because in my past world it is counted as one of the 7 countries that are named by America as the source of evil and terror, namely Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. America banned the people of those countries from entering its soil because they produce dangerous Muslim terrorists. They said to me that country had never been called Iran before. It is always called Persia, and its people follow a religion founded by a prophet called Zardasht. Their religion is known as Zoroastrianism until today. I told my informant, I know about that religion, but the people of that country were forced to forsake their religion by the swords and spears of Muslim mujahideen during the caliphates of Abu Bakr al-Siddiq and Omar ibn al-Khattab in the 7th century. The informant told me such a thing had never happened in that country. I have been told, there is also a substantial number in Persia, who are called Manichaeans, and follow a religion founded by Mani during the 2nd century AD. Then I began to inquire about my native country, where I was born and brought up. I have been told that the place is called the Kingdom of Kush until today. The people of Kush converted to Christianity between the 3rd and 4th centuries, and they are Christians until today. In that way, I came to know all these countries in the Middle East and North Africa are Christian countries all the time. There had never been Islamic invasions that happened to them, or there had never been Muslim mujahideen, who raped their females and killed their males, enslaved their children and women, and stole their lands and properties. The informant said no one could do such an inhumane and wicked thing as forcing people to accept his religion or kill them, rape their women, and enslave their children unless his message was from Satan. After that, I traveled to a land that has many religions. I landed at the Bombay International Airport on a particular evening. I sat in a hotel restaurant and conversed with a beautiful Indian girl. The girl was sitting in one corner of the restaurant by herself before I went to her and introduced myself. Then I told her the reason for my visit to India. The girl smiled at me with a friendly Indian smile and asked me to occupy the empty chair that is placed before her. I wanted to pay for her dinner and my dinner, which we ate together, but she told me in India they like to feed their guests, because the guest is like a god. I asked her what religion she follows. She said, she is a Hindu by birth. I asked her what other religions the people of India follow. She said, there is only one official religion in India, but that religion is just like an umbrella for thousands of beliefs in the subcontinent of India. I asked her what the name of that religion is. She said it is called Hinduism, and the people of this country are named Hindus after that religion. Even the country originally was called Hindustan, but the British people changed it to India. I asked my Indian girlfriend to tell me about the tourist places in her country. She said there is a beautiful tourist place in India, foreigners call it paradise on earth. When I asked her to name it to me, she said it is called Kashmir. I said to her, but Pakistan has unleashed many Islamic terrorist groups in that place because Pakistani Muslims believe it is part of their Muslim land. She said to me that she has never heard of the word Pakistan before. She also wanted to know what I meant by the Islamic terrorist groups. I tried to explain to her what I meant by those scary terms, but she could not comprehend my words. She said to me Kashmir is the most secure and peaceful area in India, and foreign tourists love to visit it the same way they love to visit the ivory white marble mausoleum, Taj Mahal, in Agra city. Foreigners always praise the friendly nature of the Kashmiri people. I thanked her for the good news she informed me about that wonderful tourist region. She then told me I shouldn't tell my people that I have seen India if I do not visit Kashmir. I promised her that I will not leave India until I visit your paradise on earth. I even invited my Indian girlfriend to join me on a trip to Kashmir, which she gladly accepted. We spent 2 wonderful weeks in Kashmir before I kissed my Indian girlfriend on her sweet lips and said my goodbyes. Then I traveled to my country Sudan and visited the city where I was born and brought up. I was disappointed when I went to the house where I grew up. The inhabitants of that house denied that they have any relationship with me. When I asked about my father, the Imam Taha al-Amin, they admitted they had a relative by that name, but he had neither married nor had a daughter in his life and died many years ago. Then I asked them about my mother Haja Khadija. They said they had never had a woman called Khadija in all their families. Even though I am disappointed with my family, still I felt happy when I saw my city is full of churches and people wearing crosses around their necks. My African people don't call themselves Sudanese people, which means people of the black faces, but proudly call themselves Kushites. The accursed Arabs named us the people of black faces when they invaded Kush and converted our Christian ancestors to Islam by the sword. We were Africans, but they Arabized us by force. Though my people have African features, still they claim to be pure Arabs. I know it is an oxymoron to call an African person an Arab. The former is black and the latter is reddish or white. I could not see a single mosque in my native place. In my previous life, my city of Al-Ghadarif was called Makkah because it had over 1,000 mosques. In every street, there is a mosque, and between every 2 mosques, there is a small masjid called Zawiya. I decided not to make fun of myself by asking the people of my city where those 1,001 mosques went. I could not be able to visit my country for a long time due to the fear of being hanged to death as an infidel apostate, and after that my corpse will be burned into ashes. Since the time I converted from Islam to Christianity, I am in the run from the Sharia court and living underground. Every Muslim wants to kill me because of my conversion and my critical speeches and writings about Islamic misogynistic teachings on women and terrorism against non-Muslims. Misogyny is hatred or contempt for women or girls. It is a way of keeping women at a lower status than men. In other words, misogyny maintains and enforces sexism. Women who reject subordination are punished by misogyny. Examples of punishment are sexual harassment and violence against women, which includes domestic violence, and in its most extreme forms, femicide and misogynist terrorism. Misogyny also operates through coercion and psychological techniques aimed at controlling women, and by legally or socially excluding and forbidding the woman from working or being a president, judge, lawyer, imama, or caliph. In some cases, misogyny rewards women for accepting an inferior status. I spent one night in my city in a beautiful hotel. I have become bewildered when I saw the girls putting on trousers and shirts like boys everywhere in the city. In the hotel, I could not believe my eyes when I saw the guests, males and females, in short pants and some in their bikinis in the swimming pool. I could not resist the temptation of enjoying myself by joining them in the water. When I came out of the swimming pool and returned to my room, I stood for a long time admiring the lovely image of my body in the mirror while I am still in my swimming bikini. A silly idea entered my mind, and I could not help resisting it. I fell back on my bed and explored with my hand my virgin pussy, which had been brutally genitally mutilated when I was a child. Imagine my delight when I discovered that my vagina is whole and perfect. My memory took me back to the time I was deprived of some important feminine organs, such as the clitoris and 2 labia when I was a 4-year-old child. Without those parts, the girl will have insensitive and dead pussy. That day those sensitive organs are miraculously restored, and I have become a perfect female again. Therefore, I enjoyed so much self-sex of masturbation by inserting my 2 middle fingers into my virgin pussy and rubbing it gently until I reached an orgasm. Still, I have not been convinced that there is nothing called Islam and demon-possessed Muslim terrorists who love to blow their bodies in smithereens and kill many innocent people. I concluded that somehow God miraculously wiped the memories of Islam from the minds of people. I decided to find something to prove to humanity that there was a religion called Islam, and that its founder Muhammad commanded his followers to spread it by the sword. He allowed his followers to invade, rob, rape, kill, pillage, enslave, and possess the lands of the infidels. Through jihad in the way of Allah, that religion gained millions of followers. 75% of them converted due to the fear of death if they refused. In the 7th and 8th centuries, it was spread from Spain in the west to India in the east. Today, it has close to 2 billion followers. To make such an important discovery, there is a religion called Islam. I have decided to travel to the land of Somalia. It is the second country, which has no non-Muslim citizens, Saudi Arabia being the first. Every Muslim Somali who converts to Christianity will be killed. So, when I arrived in that pure Muslim land, I became surprised to see the young Somali girls walking in the streets while putting on trousers and short pants. They are looking so sexy and lovely. Their short dresses are revealing their large buttocks, and that made them appear extremely attractive and hot. I have never seen a Somali man growing a long terrorist beard. Finally, I traveled to the United States of America. While I am flying from London to New York, I have a conversation with someone sitting near me. He is a young African American. Like others, he said he has never heard about a religion called Islam. Erroneously, he claimed that there are only 3 religions in the world: Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism. I have avoided arguing with him about his lack of knowledge of other religions such as Buddhism, Bahaism, Sikhism, Jainism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Shinto. When I told him about people known as Muslims who used to follow beliefs that justified the killing of anyone who refuses to convert to their religion, he said to me, "The Bible said, only the Antichrist will kill those who refuse to follow him and accept his mark of the beast, which is 666. When I insisted that Muslim mujahideen did the same thing to those who refused to accept their faith, killed 60 million Christians and 80 million Hindus, raped millions of their women, and enslaved their children, he said to me, then those people must be a satanic race, and the world should get rid of them as dangerous terrorists. I changed the topic and asked my African American friend about the tragic terrorist attack on New York on September 11, 2001, which resulted in the death of 3,000 Americans in one day. The young man laughed and thought I am joking with him. When he realized that I am a serious girl, he told me that no country in the world would dare to send jet fighters to attack America. He said further that the American Pentagon will shoot them down before they reach the airspace in the United States of America. He also said, Japan attacked us in the past, and we hit back with a nuclear bomb, which killed 70,000 Japanese in one single day. After that, no country dared to repeat such a deadly mistake. I told him, the planes that were used to destroy the two twin towers of the Trade Center in New York were not jet fighters. I explained to him that some Muslim terrorists stole passenger planes and flew them into the two towers and made them ground zero. The young African American laughed and said to me, "You must be a new prophetess of death and destruction who has been sent from hell by the devil." I said to him, "I am not a prophetess of bad omen. I am just a Christian girl who follows the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ." I have become quite surprised when I arrived in New York and saw the two towers standing like two giant skyscrapers in the heart of the greatest city in the world, which is the pinnacle of Western civilization based on the Judeo-Christian rich heritage of the Holy Bible. I decided to make other two visits before I stopped searching for clues to prove to the world that there were Islam, Muslims, and terrorists before. On my first visit, I decided to travel to Israel and see how the Israelis and Palestinians are living together. When I arrived in the Holy City, Jerusalem or Urshalim, I am amazed when I found the Jews and other nations around them living peacefully as the Americans and Canadians neighboring each other in one continent as if they are living in one country. All the inhabitants of the countries around Israel are Christians. Those people regularly visit the Christian holy places in the Jewish land. I traveled around the country, and I did not spot any terrorists. It seemed I am alone who had a long dream in which I saw all those ugly realities of Islam and demon-possessed Muslim terrorists. I remembered in my previous life there was a dangerous Muslim terrorist group known as ISIS, or the Islamic Caliphate of Iraq and Syria. Its leader or caliph was called Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who got killed by the American Marines along with his dog and a couple of kids. Therefore, I decided to make a trip to Baghdad and find out whether those brutal Muslim mujahideen are still there. When I arrived in Iraq, I have been told there are never Muslims or terrorists in that country. Everyone is a Christian. Then I traveled to Syria and likewise, I haven't found any ISIS fighters or other terrorists from Iran or Hezbollah or Hamas. There are no Yazidi slave girls sold by ISIS mujahideen in the slave market of Mosul city. Also, there are no children brides of the Islamic Caliphate. All Syrians are Orthodox Christians. The Iraqi young women and Syrian girls are putting on Western dresses, which make them look so beautiful as if they are Indian girls. No woman is wrapped from head to toe with the demeaning burqa, or abaya, or niqab. To end my search, I decided to make one last trip. This time, I have a strong feeling that I am going to get some tiny clue to prove my claim. I traveled to Afghanistan. When I landed in Kabul, I doubted that I am living in the same world I used to live in before. I have not seen any Taliban terrorists, or the Al-Qaeda mujahideen. The women of that city reminded me of the pretty women I saw in Bombay and Mogadishu when I traveled to India and Somalia. None of them is covering her body with the black tent I used to see on the TV when there was news about a terrorist attack on the NATO troops. I talked to a young pretty Afghan lady about the religion and the culture that governs her society. She said to me that most Afghanis are either the followers of Zoroastrianism or Hinduism. She also said, there are a sizable number of other faiths such as Christians, Buddhists, and Jews. I traveled around Afghanistan, but I could not find anything to prove my claim. At last, I gave up my fruitless search and began to enjoy my short stay in that beautiful Asian country. Then I went to a city called Kandahar. In my previous world, that city was considered to be hell on earth. It was teeming with the Taliban jihadist fighters and other Arab and Asian Muslim terrorists, who are members of the Islamic Caliphate of Wilayat Khorasan. In my former world, every man in that city was bearded and looked like the devil in human form. Women were covered from head to toe with black clothes, which made them look like black ghosts or the Halloween witches. There were no girls' schools in that city because the Taliban government decreed that a woman should not go out of her father's house except to her husband's house when she gets married, or to the grave when she dies or gets slain in honor killing. They based their rule on the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, which said, "The woman is a wara, or bare naked. When she goes outside the house, the devil takes charge of her." Tirmizi, Volume 2, Hadith number 65. Muhammad also said, "The woman advances in the form of Satan, and retreats in the shape of the devil." Sahih Muslim, Hadith number 2491. Eventually, while I am in Kandahar, I have seen an old man. The man looks like those bearded men I used to see in my previous world. When I saw him, I felt I have seen him before. I went to him and sat near him. He does not want to talk to me. He turned his face to avoid my look. Even so, I confronted him and asked him about his real name. He turned his face and looked seriously at me. When I have a full view of his face, I recognized him. Then he told me no one could see my face and continued to live. At first, his face resembled the face of the most wanted terrorist in the world, Osama bin Laden. His ugly mouth has opened itself and two long teeth extended until they reached his long beard. Then I have seen suddenly two horns come out on his head. When he tried to attack me, I woke up from my sleep, and behold, it is a wonderful dream. Chapter 43. Imagine a world in which all countries have become Muslim. On the following night, I had another exceptionally strange dream. In my second dream, I woke up in a world with everybody had become a Muslim. I asked the people around me, where the Jews, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, and followers of other religions are gone. They told me, they were all willingly embraced Islam. As the Prophet Muhammad prophesied, Allah has given him the entire earth planet as a mosque for prayer. Moreover, he said, I have been ordered to fight all people until they bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. If they said it, they forbid from me their blood and wealth. Allah has fulfilled his promise and made the light of Islam shine in every heart. The man who told me such incredible news shouted praise to God and thanked Allah and his messenger for the great victory that Islam has achieved. Then I began a tour around the globe to see how the world looks with everybody is a Muslim. I began my world trip by visiting Europe. In every country I went to, I saw women dressed up in Islamic clothes, covering their entire bodies with abayas, hijabs, niqabs, and burqas. I did not see the exposed shoulders, half-breasts, legs, thighs, hips of any woman. The only part of the woman I could be able to see was her face. Many Arab and Asian Muslim women put niqabs or burqas on their faces and bodies, and hence nothing could be seen of them. I had not seen a boyfriend and his girlfriend holding their hands and walking in the streets of Europe. Boyfriend and girlfriend relation has been banned and became punishable by the law. Europe employed some police force known as the Righteous Police of Allah. They are also called Social Correctional Police. Those holy cops of Allah are tasked with the duty of watching society and preventing any illegal relationship between the two sexes. Conjugal partners or common-law partners who are not married to each other are serious crimes that may lead to death by beheading. When gays and lesbians are caught, they will be hanged in public. In public transportation, females are sitting on one side and males on the other side. Women and men seem to be unhappy sitting separately. I asked some Muslims of Europe to show me some tourist sites so that I could visit them, but I was told, the Islamic governments have shut down all places of entertainment including all tourist attractions. Without places of entertainment or tourist spots to visit, life in Europe became so boring. Therefore, I immediately left that Islamic continent and decided to go somewhere else. From Europe, I traveled to the United States of America. When I landed in New York, I felt as if I landed in the holy city of Mecca during the Hajj rituals. Men are having long beards and wearing white Islamic clothes called jilbabs, which look like the nightgowns of pregnant women. They are also putting white turbans on their heads which look like white crows. Everyone is carrying a rosary in one hand, and on the other hand a copy of the Quran. There are no gangs in New York. When I asked what happened to those thousands of gangs, I was told that since America implemented the Sharia, the gang activities were reduced gradually until the last gang leader was executed in public. He was hanged to death and his dead body was left hanging for 3 days and 3 nights beside the Statue of Liberty. The statue itself has been destroyed, and in its place, there is a statue of a bearded old man with a prayer rosary on his left hand, and on his right hand a walking cane. He looks like the statue of the father of the Indian nation, the Mahatma Gandhi. Some people said it is the statue of the infallible prophet of God Muhammad, while others said it is his uncle Hamza, who was called the Lion of Allah. I like to go with the second suggestion because Islam strictly forbids the depiction of the alleged final prophet of God. Every thief who steals will have his hand cut off. No man and woman are permitted to live together without marriage. Many men and women were stoned to death because of their adulterous relations. Unmarried women and men were scourged with 100 lashes for unlawful sexual relations. Every gay person was thrown from a high building, and when his body landed on the ground he got stoned. Lesbians were burned alive. Gay marriage is banned and considered an abomination. The Sharia law made the Americans devout Muslims and compelled them to visit the mosques 5 times a day without fail. The FBI and other American police have been given the right to arrest everyone found roaming on the streets during prayer time. Praying 5 times daily in the mosque is compulsory for every male who is 10-year-old and above. Fasting 1 month during Ramadan is imperative for every Muslim man and Muslima woman. Restaurants must shut down from sunrise to sunset in the holy month. If any man or woman is caught drinking or eating during the day, he or she should be flogged mercilessly. Likewise, if any person consumes alcohol, he or she will be scourged with 100 lashes in a public place, so that some group of Muslims should witness their punishment, as the Quran requires that. All liquor stores have been shut down forever. I went to the beaches to see what change has happened there. To my surprise, I found all the beaches in America have been converted into fishing places. The Islamic government in the White House considered the beaches as the places of vices where Satan uses the bare-naked bodies of young women to entice pious men to commit adultery, take drugs, and kill their fellow human beings. America has an eternal president who is ruling the White House until death takes him out of power, like al-Gaddafi of Libya and Bashar al-Assad of Syria. Only a military coup or sudden death can remove him from power. Ever since America became a Muslim country and implemented the Sharia, His Highness President Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud is ruling in the White House for a decade and a half. Therefore, there is no need for an election any longer. The White House has been painted black after the example of the Black Kaaba in Mecca City. They renamed it the Black House. Democracy is banned because it is against the Sharia of Allah. Sharia law has replaced the American Constitution. There are neither political parties nor lawyers nor politicians. Also, there are neither civil nor criminal courts. The Sharia court replaced them all. The Holy Quran of Allah and the blessed hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad are the main sources of all laws. All places of entertainment have been officially closed after America adopted Islamic Sharia. There are no cinemas, casinos, nightclubs, discos, liquor stores, or strip female dancers who dance naked, or nude female singers. All the female singers and film actresses are strictly forbidden to sing, dance, and act without wearing the Islamic hijabs, abayas, niqabs, or burqas. Many of those famous nude female singers, dancers, and actresses have been encouraged to pray daily and go for the Hajj rituals at Mecca and Medina cities in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Islamic American government promised to cover the pilgrimage's expenses for those male and female employees who cannot afford them. Movie actors and actresses and singing are outlawed. Female singers, film actresses, nightclub naked female strippers, and dancers have been advised to seek lawful employment. Those male and female singers who love to continue singing must sing religious songs praising Allah and His beloved Prophet Muhammad. Men can use their vocal gifts and recite the verses of the Holy Quran. Female singers are not allowed to recite the verses of the Holy Quran because the woman is deficient in religion and intellect, and her voice is awara, or naked like her pussy. Failure to comply with those new laws shall result in severe corporal punishment, including chopping hands and legs and sometimes stoning to death, beheading by a double-edged sword, crucifixion, or hanging on the gallows. Keeping pets is strictly forbidden because the Prophet Muhammad had ordered the killing of all the dogs in the world. There is a long story behind that evil commandment, but this is not the right time to indulge in it. In short, Muhammad claimed the angel Gabriel said to him, "Angels don't enter a house that has a dog in it." Men have been encouraged to spend their free time at night in prayer and reciting the Quran. Women have been forbidden from going out of their houses unless it is necessary, such as going to school, work, or to the hospital in case of illness. Moreover, women are discouraged from working in places where men can spend time with them in seclusion. The government of America nullified all driver's licenses that the American women used to possess during those dark years of ignorance and unbelief. It is a crime for an American woman to drive a car. Girls are not allowed to ride bicycles or motorbikes because that may cause their hymen to be broken or their ova to fall down. The religion teaches that the ova will fall down and come out of their pussies. Therefore, female students have to travel on buses from their houses to schools. Those buses have black curtains so that males cannot see those totem animals. Such exposure of males to female bodies will lead to widespread adultery and rape in society. The government of America abolished the coeducation system. Therefore, boys and girls have separate schools and universities. American jails are almost empty most of the time. 80% of jails have been shut down for a lack of prisoners. The Sharia law solved the problem of the huge amount of money that the government used to spend on keeping suspects and convicts in jails and maximum security prisons. Everyone who steals his hand will be cut off, and anyone who commits adultery will be either whipped 100 lashes or stoned to death. The one who commits murder will be put to death through hanging. The Muslim who leaves Islam and becomes apostate will be killed, and his dead body must be burned into ashes. Every gangster will be beheaded. Likewise, all drug dealers must get their heads chopped off. Prostitutes and other street hookers will be stoned to death. Therefore, there is no need for imprisonment punishment. Every adulterer and adulteress are scourged with 100 lashes. Every rebellious wife got beaten by her husband. Children are flogged by their parents at home, and their teachers beat them at school. In that way, children are well disciplined by their parents and teachers. For those kids who continue to be rebellious, the Sharia law controls them. They are taken from their homes and sent for jihad in the way of Allah. They are also forced to carry out suicidal missions. In the case of the rebellious girls, they have been given in marriage to polygamist men to rape and chastise them. After that, I left America and traveled to the Middle East. I felt as if I traveled to another planet in the faraway galaxy when I landed in the Holy Land. The name of Israel changed to Palestine, and Urshalem city became Al-Quds. There are no more Muslims and Jews killing each other. Everyone has become Muslim. The terrorist leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah are the main rulers of Palestine. At first, Hassan Nasrallah, the main leader of the Shiites of Lebanon, has been chosen to be the caliph or president in Jerusalem. When Iran rebelled against the authority of the supreme caliph in the White House and got destroyed and wiped from the world map, he has been replaced by a Palestinian president called Abu Jihad al-Masri. Then I traveled around the other Arab countries and found people living according to Sharia law. Women are forbidden to reveal their faces hands, and legs in public. No woman can step out of her house without her husband or a muharram. A muharram is a blood relative that the woman can't marry, such as her father, brother, grandfather, or her adult son. People can leave their houses and stores open and go to pray in the mosques. No one ever dares to stretch his hand and steal a thing that doesn't belong to him. And if he does it, he will lose one hand. If he steals again, then his leg will be cut off, and if he steals the third time, then he must be beheaded. From America, I traveled to Iraq, and I did not find any Western troops. Then I traveled to Afghanistan, and I could not see the NATO troops. Taliban are ruling the country of Afghanistan. The Islamic government of Afghanistan has shut down all girls' schools. After the American Marines and other NATO troops withdrew from Afghanistan and the Middle East, the so-called Islamic terrorists became the main leaders of all Muslim and Arab countries. Muslim terrorists have been able to restore the caliphate. All countries in the world accepted the President of the United States of America, Muhammad Ahmed Mahmoud, as the supreme caliph, and the rulers of other countries became wali's or governors under his control. The supreme caliph in the White House has the right to change any governor without giving any reason for that. His Highness, the Grand Caliph of the USA, has issued a fatwa, and officially and religiously changed the name of the White House to the Black House after the name of the Black House of Allah in Mecca, also known as the Black Kaaba. After that religious decree, the former American White House is covered with black paint. The only country that rebelled against the Supreme Caliph is Iran. The Supreme Caliph tried to solve the problem of Iran through diplomacy, but he could not. When Iran began to influence the Shiites of Iraq, which finally led to civil war, the U.S. Air Force hit the rebellious country with nuclear weapons and completely erased it from the world map. Therefore, I was not able to visit Iran because it did not exist anymore. I was told that America threatened to use weapons of mass destruction to hit any country that refused to accept Islam. The White House and the Pentagon are following the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, in which he said, "I have been commanded to fight the people until they bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If they say it, they forbid from me their wealth and blood." He also said, "I have been made victorious through territories that were destroyed and erased from the world map because of their refusal to convert to Islam and submit to the Supreme Caliph of the White House, which became the Black House in Washington, and they used military force to combat the invading armies of the Muslim Mujahideen is Iran." The White House and the Pentagon are following the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, in which he said, "I have been commanded to fight the people until they bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If they say it, they forbid from me their wealth and blood." He also said, "I have been made victorious through terrorism that were destroyed and erased from the world map because of their refusal to convert to Islam and submit to the." He also said, "I have been made victorious through terrorism. The countries which were destroyed and erased from the world map because of their refusal to convert to Islam and submit to the Supreme Caliph of the White House, which became the Black House in Washington, and they used military force to combat the invading armies of the Muslim Mujahideen is Iran, Australia, India, China, Japan, South Korea, Ukraine, Denmark, France, the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Jamaica, Venezuela, and Canada. Those countries and their inhabitants are turned into desolation. Their women had been taken as captives, got raped and enslaved, and their children and girls were sold as slaves in the international slave markets. I could not understand how a superpower country like the United States of America could be forced to convert to Islam, whereas less powerful countries like those that resisted conversion were invaded and completely destroyed, and their citizens have perished in the melees. I was compelled to ask someone to explain to me that riddle. I had been informed that America had not been converted through military force. An African American applied the law of Taqiyya until he reached the White House as a senator. Taqiyya is permissible deception and lying in Islam. Then he continued to pretend to be a Christian until he won the general election and became the President of the United States of America. As soon as he won the election and occupied the White House as the head of the state, he declared himself to be the first Muslim man to rule the USA. Of course, he did it gradually and in a cunning way. First, he began to open the door and help some African American Muslim leaders to work in society by winning Americans to Islam. In one of his speeches, he admitted openly that he was born and brought up as a Muslim before he got deceived and brainwashed by his non-Muslim relatives and converted to Christianity. Shortly after that, he delivered another speech and said he found more religious tolerance and brotherhood in Islam than in Christianity. To support his point, he referred to the example of the famous boxer Muhammad Ali Clay, who was once a persecuted and ill-treated Christian and then converted to Islam. Muhammad Ali was born as a Christian boy known as Cassius Marcellus Clay, but when he grew up and became a famous boxer, under the influences of Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, he was brainwashed and converted to Mohammedanism. The Muslim president said that he found Muhammad Ali Clay's justification compelling, and his testimony of being a Muslim more promising. Towards the end of the second year of his reign, the African-American President of the United States of America surprised the world one morning when he declared his conversion from Christianity to the Mohammedan faith. He said Islam is the religion of his African ancestors who were stolen from the Black continent and brought as slaves to the New World. He also claimed before they were brought as slaves through the Atlantic slave trade during the centuries of 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th his African grandfathers and grandmothers were sons and daughters of kings and queens and proud warriors in their countries and among their tribes. The American Congress tried desperately for a year to impeach him for lying to the public before his election, but it could not succeed. Article 18 of the Charter of Human Rights has stood in the way of impeaching the convert president of the USA. Article 18 states, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The UN has backed up his conversion and considered it freedom of faith. Even many American feminists stood with him. Oprah Winfrey also stood on the side of the African American president who converted from Christianity to Islam. She delivered many fiery speeches in support of the U.S. president's conversion to his new faith, which he chose willingly. Many European politicians argued that impeaching the U.S. president for his conversion to Islam is a violation of human rights and goes against the American Constitution. Of course, all Muslim countries supported his decision. After his conversion, the U.S. Muslim president succeeded first in converting each and every African American to Islam. Politics and ethnicity played important roles in the mass conversion of African Americans. Christianity is preached by the Muslim imams in mosques as a bad and backward religion that represents slavery, racial discrimination, colonization, dark ages in Europe, Inquisition courts, crusades, and the reason behind all the ills that had befallen the African Americans, whereas Islam has become the symbol of brotherhood and freedom from the exploitation of the white man. Some African American Muslim leaders called for the African Americans' liberation movement. The new movement did not only convince African Americans, but led many nominal Christians to forsake Christianity and embrace Islam. Many irreligious people such as secularists, communists, feminists, Satanists, and other atheists left their secularism and became Muslims too. The Muslim leaders openly preach in their mosques and public places against the church and condemn it as a place of hypocrisy and deception. All churches of Christ as a whole, whether they are Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, and other denominations, have been accused of supporting and encouraging white supremacy and racial discrimination. They also claimed in the past the church justified and supported the slavery of the black Africans by the American settlers who stole them from Africa and brought them as slaves to the two Americas. Some Muslim leaders went further than that and claimed the church is behind the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, racial movement. One of the advocates of this theory is Louis Farrakhan, the spiritual and religious leader of the Nation of Islam. Many churches were forced to shut down due to the lack of membership and funding, not different from the fate of many churches in Europe, Africa, Asia, South America, and Australia. Before the president ended his second term in power, half of America became Muslims. The new president elected is an African-American Muslim too. This new president began persecuting the remaining Christians. By this time, many Christian Americans began mass immigration to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. This immigration helped Islam to have a stronger grip on America. When Muslims became the majority in the States, there is public pressure on the White House to forsake the man-made laws created by the infidels and implement the divinely revealed laws of Allah. In the fourth year of his reign, the second African-American Muslim president applied the Sharia law and declared himself as caliph. Then began the American Islamic invasions of other countries of the world. The first country that was invited to Islam and refused to accept it was the neighboring country Canada. The Pentagon used weapons of mass destruction to destroy Canada and erased it from the world map. Thereafter followed the forced conversion of the European countries. The United Kingdom willingly accepted Islam. This happened because there is a military alliance between the two superpower countries. After that, the countries of the world were converted one after the other. All Arab and Muslim countries have willingly joined the new superpower Muslim country and accepted the President of the USA as the greatest caliph or the new Muslim Pope. By the way, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, who is called the Pope of the Vatican in Rome, has repented of his sins of shirk by worshipping through the Holy Trinity the Prophet of Allah Jesus Christ and his mother Mary as two gods besides the one God. Then the Pope of Rome accepted Muhammad as the final prophet of God to mankind and declared Islam as a third valid Abrahamic religion. After that, he announced from his Holy See in the Vatican that all Catholics of the world must be encouraged by their priests, bishops, and nuns to become Muslims, and therefore, the followers of the only true religion in the universe. Those rebellious countries, where Satan still has a hold on its leaders, have been invaded and hit with weapons of mass destruction. During those invasions, around 3.5 billion people perished. After destroying half of the world's population, Sharia law became compulsory in every country of the world. All former social entertainments are banned. All movie theaters, beaches, public parks, gyms, swimming pools, nightclubs, bars, liquor stores, and many more were shut down. All physical exercises are considered haram, such as soccer, basketball, American football, hockey, cricket, tennis, and casinos, among others. Moreover, all tourist sites have been closed. The burqa became compulsory for every woman, including children. By official order, every female must be circumcised regardless of her age. Therefore, even children, young girls, and old women were all genitally mutilated. Also, by order of the Sharia law, every male is circumcised. Polygamy became legal, and men are encouraged to have more than one wife. Child marriage is also allowed because the Prophet Muhammad had practiced it with his childlike bride Aisha, and the Quran permits it in Surah Al-Talaq 64, verse 5. Husbands are permitted to beat their disobedient wives, fathers can beat their rebellious daughters, and brothers can physically abuse their sisters because Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 34 gives them the right to do so. In the meantime, millions of books have been written that described in detail how those Islamic invasions were fought by the Mujahideen, and who were the outstanding military leaders in those conquests. After those bloody wars, Islam became the one world religion, and the Sharia has been implemented all over the world. My second question is naturally, how such a powerful country as Russia has become a Muslim nation when most of its population are atheists and communists. I have been informed that Russia had neither been invaded nor had been given the option to convert or be destroyed. A Muslim general in the Russian army seized power through a coup d'état. He became the president of the Soviet Union via a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a communist government. As soon as he occupied the Moscow Kremlin, he massacred many top leaders of the Communist Party. He then began to exalt Muslims to higher positions in his government. After completely Islamizing his cabinet, he declared Islam the official religion of the state. Many Russian people revolted, and some took arms and became armed rebels. The ruthless president killed millions of them. He even surpassed Joseph Stalin in his brutality. Stalin killed 20 million Russians. No one knew how many millions the tyrant Muslim president killed, but some estimates put it at 40 million people. After that bloody murderer died, his brother inherited his throne. This new president abolished democracy and declared Russia an Islamic caliphate. He wasn't less than his deceased brother in brutality. He killed many communists too. Through this new Russian caliph, Israel has been changed from a Jewish state to a 100% Muslim land. He led a huge army, which he named Gog and Magog, and placed a siege around the tiny state of Israel. All Arab and Muslim countries sent their soldiers and encouraged Muslim civilians to join Gog and Magog as mujahideen. Israeli government pleaded with the USA to intervene, but the Muslim president said if he sends his Marines to fight with such a huge army, then the entire human race would be destroyed. When America refused to rescue Israel, the Jews proposed to pay the jizya on their knees to Muslim leaders and live as dhimmis under the Islamic rule, as their ancestors had done during the Abbasid Caliphate of Baghdad. The Muslim Russians and Arabs rejected that demand and gave the Jews two options: convert to Islam, or you will be destroyed. During the siege, many Jews killed their children, wives, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and grandparents, and then took their lives. The remaining Jews rejected the two options and decided to fight. Of course, they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. When the Jewish small army was destroyed, the surviving Israelis were forced to convert to Islam. Then Israel's name has been changed to Palestine, and Jerusalem became known as Al-Quds. After the defeat and Islamizing of the Jews, all secular laws are abolished, and the Sharia law has been implemented worldwide. When I learned that the entire world applied the Sharia, everybody became Muslim, and Islam became one world religion, I shouted, Allah Akbar, and I woke up from my sleep, and behold, it is a horrifying nightmare.